Hey everybody, welcome back to another video from Evergreen Trading Academy. Today we're going to be diving into a beginner's guide to how to read level 2 in time and sales. So if you're someone that's looking at this image here on the right, have no idea what's going on, it's just a bunch of numbers, bunch of colors, and when it's live, they're moving around so quickly. This video is going to be for you. We're going to be talking about the beginner's guide, how to read it, how to understand it. Maybe you've seen it in some other videos, you don't know what's going on, so let's just jump into it. So in order to understand what level 2 is, let's understand what level 1 is. So the stock market is comprised of buyers and sellers. The buyers are people that are placing bids on shares they want to own, and the sellers are sellers that are selling their shares, asking for the price that they are wanting to sell it at. Hence why the buyers are the bid, they are wanting to bid on shares, and the sellers are asking for a price to sell their shares at. So let's say we have a buyer here that is wanting to buy some shares, buy 100 shares at $2. As you can see here, they are wanting to buy 100 shares at $2. This is the best bid on the buyer's side. Now let's say we have another person that is selling shares. They are wanting to sell 150 shares for $2.10. This is the best ask. There is no one selling cheaper shares than this person right here. This information here, the best bid and the best ask, is what is known as the level 1. For reference, the difference between the best bid price, so $2 in this case, and the best ask price, $2.10, the difference between those two numbers is the spread. In this case, it's 10 cents. So now that we understand what the level 1 is, what is the level 2? So the level 2 builds on top of the knowledge that we were learning about level 1. It builds on top of this by adding what we call market depth. So what this means is, not only can you see the best bid, that is the buyer that is willing to buy the shares at the most expensive price, and the best ask, that is the seller willing to sell the shares at the cheapest price. Not only can you see the best bid and the best ask, you could see all the buyers and all the sellers. So if you haven't guessed already, this here is a still image of the level 2 window. So let's just quickly break it down. So to start off with, we're not going to be focusing on much of this information up the top here. We're just going to be focusing inside the information inside this window here. So just like in the previous example, it's split into two columns. This column here being the buyers, or the bid, and this column here being the sellers, or the ask. So again, the level 2 is organized by the best bid and the best ask. And again, what that means, most expensive bid is on the left hand side working its way down, and the cheapest ask on the ask side working itself up. Again, in the previous example, you've got the price here, which is in the middle of both columns, and you've also got the size, so the amount of shares they are wanting to buy, and the amount of shares they are wanting to sell. In this image here, the size is being divided by 100. So there's some settings on level 2. You could divide the size by 10, drop 1 0, or you could drop 2 zeros. This image here looks like it's been divided by 100. So what that means is when you see a 2, there's actually someone buying 200 shares, not 2 shares. And this 0 up here, and that's someone wanting to buy under 100 shares. So it's under 100. And same with this side as well. People are selling shares, 2100, 900 shares, 500 shares, and so on. So the different colors on the level 2 group the same prices together. So what this means is, as you can see here on the seller's side, the ask, there are 3 different people here wanting to sell their shares, asking for $4.69 for each share. They're all grouped together with the green color. Same you can see down here, there are two people asking for a price of $4.71 for their shares here. So now that we have a small basic understanding of what the level 2 is, let's move on to the time and sales. So you can see here, the time and sales and the level 2 are used together. And the time and sales is a running list of completed transactions. So what that means is each one of these prices here, this is the time and sales on the right here, each one of these rows is a completed transaction. As opposed to the level 2, where people are wanting to buy shares and wanting to sell shares, the time and sales is completed transactions. So two people have come together, made an agreement on price, and exchanged shares. As you can see, it's split into some columns. Of course, you've got the price that the transaction happened at, the quantity of shares that was traded, and then of course the time. Each row in the time and sales is color-coded. And what that means is there's 3 different colors, or sometimes 5 different colors, but I'm going to go over just the 3 in this video. And what these colors mean is where the transaction happened in accordance to the level 2. So the green, all these numbers here that are in the time and sales, the green numbers, that means a buyer came to the seller's side and brought shares from the ask. That means a buyer came and brought shares from this side of the level 2. And so the transaction is... Now you have some rows in here that are white. The white is a transaction that happened between the bid and the ask. So that doesn't mean it happened on the ask. It doesn't mean a buyer came to the seller and brought the shares, or a seller came to the buyer to sell the shares. The transaction happened in the middle. And then of course the red means that the seller has came down to the bidding price and sold his shares to a buyer at the buyer's price. So now with this basic information, hopefully you have a small understanding of how to read the level 2 in time and sales. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up, or even consider subscribing. There's going to be a lot more videos coming out in the future, so stay tuned.